All right, welcome everyone. This is Paul H's Reflections on the 12 Steps. This is not an AA meeting. It's one member's take on the exact nature of the wrong, page 64 of the AA Big Book, and the solution to the 12 steps. The meeting is being recorded and it's being streamed live on Facebook. This is not an all-share meeting. Rather, it's a question and answers for Paul H's take on the 12 steps. For details on all the events, his story under arrest, books, t-shirts, and past events, videos, check out his website, zenbitchslap.com. All right, let's get this thing rolling here. So our reading today, I thought on page 27, it's probably the whole page, but I'll go ahead and start at the top of the plate. Some of our alcoholic readers may think they can do without spiritual help. Let us tell you the rest of the conversation our friend had with his doctor. The doctor said, "You have a mind of a chronic alcoholic. I have never seen one single case recover where the state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you." Our friend felt as though the gates of hell had closed on him with a clang. He said to the doctor, "Is there no exception?" "Yes," replied the doctor, "there is. Exceptions to cases such as yours have been occurring since early times. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomenal. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes which were once the guiding forces of their lives, of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. In fact, I've been trying to produce some such emotional rearrangement within you. With many individuals, the methods I have employed are successful, but I have never been successful with an alcoholic of your description." Upon hearing this, our friend was somewhat relieved, for he reflected that after all, he was a good church member. This hope, however, was destroyed by the doctors telling him that while his religious convictions were very good, in his case, they did not spell the necessary vital spiritual experience. Here was the terrible dilemma in which our friend found himself when he had the extraordinary experience, which, as we have already told you, made him a free man. So, I kind of was, when I was reflecting on this, Paul, I was thinking about being convinced self-manifests in various ways, what defeated us, and the self-imposed crisis, the imposition of self, and then, kind of how this kind of ties into that whole shift in perspective. So I'll give it to you.
Yes, thanks, Kurt. Well, nice to see everybody. All alcoholic or a grateful member of recovery, or however you want to say it. I remember there was a guy named Harry Tebow or something in the beginning, and he found that the idea of surrender was completely necessary. So he would set up little like control follies in people's lives where he would talk to the boss of someone and have that boss fire the someone, not really, but fire him. He had talked to the guy's girlfriend or wife. And then they were saying, "We're going to leave you." And he would try to control situations and circumstances to induce a certain bottom so that that person could give up finally. Yeah. And he believed that surrender was necessary, that there's got to be a point of, in a way, you can grow into that point, but many of us have to surrender under that point of pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. There is an easier, softer way. That's part of the program, yeah, to lift people's bottoms. But and when that that day occurred with me when I feel, what defines a bottom is when you're moving away from it. Yeah. So, because I lived on a bottom for years. It wasn't like, wasn't an unusual deep bottom one day. It was basically the norm. But that bottom is signified by moving away or moving up from it. Yeah. And I do remember feeling like it's sort of like being buried alive and not having the little fake exit of being the observer of that. The observer was in the coffin. Yeah. I mean, all of what I call me, the thief and the policeman, was in there. The policeman wasn't pontificating, look at what you did. There was just a complete demoralization or a exhale or a deflation of the whole system. Yeah. And then in my case, it was a sudden one. I was struck sober. But I truly believe that being struck sober can happen over and over and over again. To stay sober, you need a way of life. Yeah. You need a way of life to stay sober. I think a lot of us get struck sober. There's a point where we've met the end, but then time continues and there's a regrouping and we keep adapting to a lower and lower bottom, really. Yeah. But in this case, the whack was strong enough that it set off trains of circumstances that brought me to my first AA meeting that night. And then AA's had a huge influence ever since. Yeah. So I don't believe that that being struck sober could stand alone. It needed a way of life to sort of allow it to extend the miracle, so to speak. Yeah. And that way of life is truly based on, admitting we're outmatched in a way. Yeah. And coming to believe that something could do for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. And in this case, specifically concerning the insanity that precedes the first drink, that something could give us a deterrence against that. Yeah, because there's no mental defense. So it has to come from another source. Yeah, it's not going to be a physical defense. You're not going to build a barricade or a wall with barbed wire. It's going to be a spiritual defense. Yeah, something that unsuspected inner resource, we're living truly unsuspecting of it. Yeah, because we're mentally dominated. So that spiritual resource, put out that call, and one of the answers to that call was recovery, the way of life, principles, everything we do. Yeah, and service being one of the most pronounced activities based on the condition we're in, which is obsession with self. Yeah, so we have to get pulled out of that orbit. Yeah, because we can't get ourselves out of the orbit. We have to do something called service to pull our attention out of the orbit of self. Yeah, so that we can have different possibilities, because the possibilities as self are quite stifling. It's just claustrophobic. It's not looking good, and it's always based on a future or a past condition, and the soothsayer of that world is the problem. Yes. That's where the head is playing God. It's telling you how it was and how it's gonna be all freaking day. Yeah, it really is. And so, and it's your hope to be okay gets thrown into time, and then it's a hope I will be okay. Yeah, or a memory I was once okay, but that okayness isn't available now. Yeah, with that direction, with that promising isn't okayness now. It's that will be okay, and I was once okay, maybe. Yes. So it never delivers the goods. It just promises. Yeah. And then it sets out on a course of mostly inaction and produces its own effects. And then we get frustrated and upset and demoralized. And who wants to feel that? So you take an easy way out, getting loaded, go oblivious, take shit to kill some brain cells, whatever. Yeah. And some of us are severe cases, real addicts and real alcoholics. we're not going to go into like a 3-day detox, you know, it's probably not going to work. We need a way of life. We need a way of life. You know, we used to speak to people in those 28-day programs, and we'd always say, what's the most important day of the 28-day program? The 29th day is what you do when you leave. Yeah. If you take the bridge of recovery, that sobriety that you had in that controlled environment may become available the rest of your life. Yeah. But most of us aren't going to be able to live in a controlled environment. Yeah. So 28 days and then go back out, then go back in for 28 days. And then, I'll stay a year and then go back out. Yeah. We need a way of life that's available when you're in a controlled environment and when you're outside a controlled environment. Yeah. And the tent of recovery is pretty open. So we have meetings and shit like that, but you don't camp out in the meeting usually. You don't live there. It's not like a camp out. You go to the meeting, you get refreshed and reinvigorated, you go back out. Yeah. Yeah. We got a purpose. It's not to stay in a controlled environment, it's to help other people who suffer from the same shit. Yeah. Are we going to meet everyone in the controlled environment? No. We're going to meet them out here. Yeah. So this is about being of maximum use. It's not about Paul getting super great. If that's a byproduct of it, fantastic, but it's not necessary. It's Paul being of use to himself and others. Yeah. And because of why? It wasn't useful. He wasn't. Yeah. He was caved in himself. He was caved into this mental idea. Yeah. It was completely claustrophobic, and I wasn't having that much fun. And getting high wasn't a party, it was an occupation. I had to try to get out of self every day. I couldn't bear living in that judging condition. The only way I could obliterate it was by getting loaded. And I was the type that I was willing to pay any consequence tomorrow not to feel that discomfort now. It was that severe to me, seemingly. Yeah. So here we are once again. And this guy gets this diagnosis. It's not sounding well for him. Yeah. The one door, religion, was closed on him. He's basically up Schitt's Creek. And that's where the river of life starts. Yeah. If you stop paddling one way, you'll go into the river. Yeah. The river fucking, yeah, but Schitt's Creek is just having the canoe pointed the wrong way. Yeah. A life run on self-will. Mike is leaving. Nice to see you, Mike. Yeah, make an appearance. Here's Mike. Yes.
I heard better today.
Yes. He's sober and he's going out into the world. I'll see you, bro. Yes. We have a whole line of people. They're coming for a hug, and they're going out into the world sober. Here's another one. He looks just like Mike.
Show me. It's funny because move your hand.
Oh, there's that one. Yeah, he's going into the world. Yeah. Remember, don't try to save anybody. There you go. So, yeah, I mean, this guy was still probably holding out hope, and the guy really, that was true compassion, putting out the imaginary light. Yes, it truly was. Compassion is allowing people to have their bottom. Yes, you're not doing them a favor trying to keep them from their bottom. For many of us, that's what it takes. You have to have that day of reckoning, and realize it's all fucking collapsed, and then there's a new beginning. Obviously, if you want to just keep stretching it out over and over and over again. Yeah. So, yeah, we're not in the business of outcomes. I'm not in the business of your sober outcome. All I do is share, hold the space, hopefully. Yeah. And in this seat assignment, point out maybe the diagnosis of the exact nature of the wrong, the activity of the bondage of self is definitely an act of being identified as it. It's definitely that, in my view. So, yeah, thanks, Kurt. Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks, buddy.
Kristen, you have a job here. There's no windows to wash. It's all plastic.
Wow,
They're building it now. Yeah.
I was getting ready to run right over.
Yeah, no, we don't need Windex or anything yet.
Well, when you said hoping against hope, I love that statement. It's like you said, it's like, I remember a friend of ours used to say, he said, if I rob you from your pain, he said, you got to start over again from the very beginning. And it was that kind of, that thing like you just said.
And it's not for everyone at any time. Sometimes it's totally cool to help people. Sometimes it's not helpful to help people. Yeah. Be on a need to know basis. There's no like rote, okay, this is how I recognize someone who doesn't need. No, it's in the moment. Yeah. You trust the process and then see what happens. And after trusting the process, you see it works. And so then there's more trust in the process. So yeah. People always want to call me up and, have a rote answer that I would give to everyone. There isn't one, This is seemingly so, Kurt, really. This isn't true. Our condition is actually not true. It's seemingly true. And a lot of the condition is coming from this other side of the seemingly. It's the activity of our head, yeah? So, and who can gauge that? Who can take who can weigh that? You can't. It's so subjective. You don't know everyone's own private Idaho. You just don't know it. Yeah. So you have to, but something does, something can. And I'd rather stay open to that telling what the person may need to do than me telling the person what they need to do, really. Because I have no idea. Some of that, like I've never been in a lifelong depression. I never have had a long stint, I don't believe, of what I hear people describe as depression. So I don't know, I don't know what it would be like if the volume in the head was turned up 8 notches. I may be taking any pill that was on the table or going through people's medicine cabinets, who knows, yeah? But while I have a freedom from that, to enjoy it is to be it, really. Yeah, not having it, being it. Yeah, because if I feel like I have it, I feel like I can lose it. It's too essential for that possibility. Yeah. But being it, yeah, being the spiritual condition. So no matter what other mental or physical or emotional conditions are happening, they don't override the fact that there's an inherent spiritual condition. That's reliable. That's stabilized. That's true to me. Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah, so basically, true or not, what's ever going on, there's a truth underneath it, around it, over it. Yeah, and that truth is readily available at all time, with no requirement necessary to meet it, really, except the ones we make up. And then you'll get tired of making up shit and you'll just be available. Yeah. You will. You don't have to prove that you've become spirit. You are spirit. There's no need for proof. Yeah. I don't do myself into a sense of spirit, I don't feel. Yeah. I am a sense of spirit doing shit, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems simple, but it's profound in a way, because this whole experience is directional, really. Yeah. If you look one way, you're on Schitt's Creek. If you look the other way, it's opening to the ocean. It's incredible. Yeah? If you keep listening to that, what's telling you you're up Schitt's Creek, there's going to be more Schitt's Creek. All the while, the ocean is right there. You're just not seeing it. Yeah. This is what happens. We get a new attitude and outlook. We get a new pair of glasses, like Richard, whatever said it, whatever his name was.
Chuck Chamberlain. Yeah.
Chuck Chamberlain. New pair of glasses. Fantastic. So now, instead of seeing Schitt's Creek in Schitt's Creek, we see Schitt's Creek appearing in the ocean. Yeah. The ocean is the dominant thing, and now there's a little bit of it called Schitt's Creek. Yeah. If you stop rowing, which is producing more Schitt's Creek, the ocean will overtake you. You don't realize Schitt's Creek and the rowing are very synonymous. You trying to get out of Schitt's Creek is Schitt's Creek, really. You're outmatched, bro. Put the fucking paddle down and admit you can't get out of Schitt's Creek. And then the ocean's available.
That's
You can't
classic.
talk people into that. They gotta fall into it. I think AA brings you to that place. It does. I mean, the first step is really a declaration of being outmatched, obviously. Yeah. And step 2 is a recognition that something is doing for you what you can't do for yourself. Step 3 is making a decision because your life isn't under your own power. You've been taken over. So you make a decision that which is demonstrating and doing for me what I can't do for myself, I'm going to make a decision to turn my whole kit and caboodle over to the care of that. Yeah. Because I feel hoping, and it's going to turn into a belief and really galvanize as faith, that I'll be taken care of better with the new employer than the old employer, really. Yes. I mean, it's not much of a leap. We've gotten the results of the old employer. So the third step is just that, make a decision and then jump right into action by doing an inventory. Now, I would like to suggest to maybe have the view of the inventory as looking at the patterns of how self has defeated us by its manifestations. And do another one if you like, but I would throw that in there. Yeah. And maybe actually do another one and looking at resentments as yours and fears, and then compare it to the inventory of fear, resentment, and harms done to others instead of your fears, your resentments, and see the difference. There'll be a huge one. Yeah. And I think that difference is sort of, how, when they go to another planet, they can't really take a picture of it, but they bomb it with like radar or something, and then they make up an image from that data. Yeah. Well, that's what happens when the data that will be revealed by my resentment, you'll see something. You'll see what has defeated you. This ambiguous thing called self. You'll see it. Yeah. The information will produce an image, and hopefully you'll see it as other. And when you see it as other, the possibility of being free from it is finally reestablished instead of trying to be free as it. You give up that fucking hope, and now you're on a path, a clear path, really, right? From the bondage of self, not as an example of the bondage of self, but from the bondage of self. Yeah, freedom from it. Not freedom as it, or with it, or for it, or by it, but from it. Yeah. Please relieve us of this bondage of self. Now you're on. Now you've got the clear direction, and now there's that movement from the faith being in the finite self and the faith being in the infinite. Yeah, and you get the joy and all the other reactions of seeing that happen in your life and in other people's lives. Yes. I mean, really, which is unbelievable. It's great when you see someone like wolf-like eyes turn into almost a whole different creature just by getting sober. It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic. So, yeah, that's my my take on it today. It's not my take, really. My take would have had me in it a lot. Yeah. You'd have to come through me, buy this, get that, and only, yes. But it's come through. Something has come through Paul. I'm very clear it's not Paul.
Yeah.
So I don't mix up the water with the hose. I don't. Yeah. They have totally different qualities. It's hard to misidentify water with the hose. The hose ain't really going anywhere. It's something. It's a transport for something. So you're either a transport for selfing or spiritual direction. Right? Yeah. There aren't that many possibilities. It's either one camp or the other.
Yeah.
It's either trusting the finite or trusting the infinite. Yeah. Now you got to learn, I feel, how it looks when you're trusting the finite, because you may not know that while you're believing you're trusting the infinite, it actually may be a reinforcement of trusting the finite. You may not know that, and it's nice for that knowledge to be available so that you can catch how it robs you again and again and again. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It robs you when you're in the solution. It robs you when you're in the problem. It does. Yeah. One, it's super blatant. The other is like a pickpocket, but it's still robbing you. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
there is a solution, but the problem has some moves. The act of being identified as something is tricky because you don't know it when you're in the act of being identified as it. Yeah. So when Stanley is manifesting through you, you keep calling it your manifestations. You're not aware that you're identified as Stanley. Yeah. So if you come into the program, and most of us do, we're trying to get out of what we're not actually in. Yeah. We're trying to get out of Stanley as Stanley, but we're not Stanley. So that's not going to work, obviously. Self can't get out of self. So we have to have an education about this so you can recognize the mental activity, because the problem resides in the mind, the mental activity. That's where the problem is. So, and it's not a stagnant thing. It's an activity, a bunch of activities. Yeah, that implies stuff. Yeah. So when you're thought about, you're implied to be a body. Yeah. So that immediately cancels the fact that you're a spiritual condition, because you start about all your concerns about conditions are premised on starting as a body condition. Wow, that changes the whole game. So now the body and the head is going to try to become spiritual, when in fact it is spirit appearing as a body and a head. That's insane, eh? So what would the spiritual condition striving for that? What would that actually be doing? Reinforcing the physical condition. Because you as the physical are trying to become spiritual. That's like, changing water into oil. I mean, Jesus may have done it, but I don't see you as Jesus right now. So we got to sort of recognize the oil and the water, I would say. Yeah. Yeah. So the education came about when I got sober, because you don't know the problem when you're in the problem. You learn about alcoholism when you're not in alcoholism, really. You do, don't you? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you know the effects of alcoholism, but you definitely don't know the cause when you're under alcoholism. You don't. Yeah. When you get out from underneath that rock, then you can start understanding what it was like to be inside underneath the rock. Yeah. So this is hopefully we can participate in an education be like a sort of humble optometrist to work on the new pair of glasses that Chuck C was offering. Yeah. So maybe we can see. It's not more seeing, it's seeing more. There's plenty of seeing. Yeah. But we need to see more about what? About the act of the problem, I feel.
Yeah.
So I think the word self is used quite a lot in the book, probably more than anything, more than God, everything. Yeah, self, the word is probably it's everywhere. So if you keep calling self you, and self is what has defeated us, you are in fact, you're relying on that which has defeated you. How's that going to work out? Yeah. And are you going to understand its evidence right in front of you? You won't, because you'll think it's you, and it ain't. Yeah. You have not defeated you. Paul did not defeat Paul. There was a defeat of whatever you want to call Paul by this activity of being identified as self. Yeah. The main movement in the beginning of recovery, and the third step is you lose interest in self. That sets off everything. Yeah. Why is that? Why does everything get set off when there's a loss of interest in self, and won't get set off if there isn't a loss of interest in self? Why is that? It's fundamental. It's very, very important. And to learn that you can't lose interest in self as self. That would be more interest in self. You have to see that sooner or later. Yeah. because you'll be feeding the problem while you're thinking you're starving the problem. You gotta figure that out, I think, humbly. So that things are clear from the beginning, not clear down the road, but from the beginning. Yeah. And then the idea of surrender, when you see the facts of the situation, will lead to surrender. You will have surrendered to that which you admitted in the first step. There will be a surrendering to that. You'll realize you're not managerial quality. Yeah. Seriously, you'll realize it. It'll be done. It's a moot point. Yeah. No going to 20 years of business rehab. You're just not managerial quality. Yes. Yeah. Get a trade. You're not going to be running the show. Yeah. You may be directing a lot of other people, but not as the director. Something's directing you, directing a lot of other people. You may have a seat assignment where you direct a lot of people, but you're being directed, hopefully, by the Spirit. Yeah. That's clear. You just stay like that forever from now on. You hit a point where you're convinced. Yeah. All right, turn off the evidence. I'm convinced. Yes. Let's move to, turn off that spigot. I'm convinced. I'm convinced I'm not managerial quality. I'm convinced that something does for us what we can't do for ourselves. And I am also convinced that something was doing through us that which we would have never done by ourselves. I believe the old employer has basically the similar traits as the new employer, yet the effects are completely different. Yeah. You get taken over by the Spirit just like you got taken over by the head, but the effects of that takeover are completely different from the head and the Spirit. Yeah. But the takeover is the same. Yeah. You're like an Opal vessel. You're like one of those public car shares in the city. Yeah. While you're driving it, you think it's your car, but there's going to be 12 drivers that day thinking it's their car. Yeah? It's a timeshare. So basically, this idea of this is my life, obviously, was it? You look just like every other addict when you're out there. Yeah. And hopefully, in a sense, you have a nice appearance, bright eyes, like every other person who's really in the aliveness of recovery. Yeah, because it's the old employer looking through us or the new employer looking through us. It's not us looking through anything. We're the looking glass. We're not the one who's looking through the looking glass. We're the looking glass. Yeah. Didn't it feel like that? Shit, yeah.
I like that.
Didn't it feel like something is doing for me what I couldn't do for myself? Yeah, it feels like that. I can't really, I can't use math to verify it, but intimately, that's how it feels. It feels like something like doing talks. I never get ready because it's not me giving the talk. Seriously, I just show up at 8:30 and let it go, let it rip. And by the evidence, I have come to believe completely, complete faith in it, that its ability to get through me isn't based on my conditions. It would just use me if I'm sick or not. It doesn't care. Yeah. I don't think it sees me as I see me. Thank God. I don't. It really doesn't seem to take all that I think you should take in consideration when you're thinking of me. It doesn't seem to take any of it into consideration. Seriously, it doesn't. And I'm better off for it, really. Yeah. Maybe it's my own vested interest that's really part of the disease. Yeah. So, yes, I'm stoked,
Yeah.
I am stoked, man. It's almost 34 years, I think, now, sobriety in March. I think so. Pretty sure. I'll have to do the math, but man, it's been the most momentous and an event with the most momentum in my life. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. And it gets easier. Yeah. This isn't like boot camp forever. I mean, you may need to go through some discipline, but basically it's more like being a free range alcoholic sooner or later. Yeah. Yeah, you're not burning houses down. You don't need a lot of surveillance. I don't have ill will to my neighbors or anyone. First of all, because it's too much fucking work. Seriously. I mean, really, to carry around a resentment's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And what is it doing? Giving you a rationale to being alone and right? Fuck, that's a bad deal. Yeah, fucking. Oh, let me show you my resentment. Give me a fucking break. It's like prehistoric. It's been petrified. You just keep breathing life into it. Yeah. Hey, bro, that was 40 years ago. I was ran over 42 years ago. Get over it. Yeah. Buddy ran me over twice. Well, twice get over it. You know, fuck it. Be happy you can even walk. Yeah. Enjoy what you have. Don't bemoan what you don't. That's insane. Who had the ability to do that? No one. I didn't. Now it's available.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Hawaii got me stoked today, I guess. It's funny when when there's a meeting of non-duality, it's a different feel, yeah. Because here, this is more about the action figure, you know, recovery. So you can get into like fleshy, meaty stuff because in the absolute rigid, dogmatic view of non-duality, you know, but in this, it's sloppy, yeah. It's sloppy. We're fucked. Well, there's no one to be fucked. Yes, and we're fucked. You know? So it's yeah, it's cool. I hope we're all enjoying sobriety and the possibilities that are available.
Yeah.
And if, you know, many of us will be used to point out possibilities to ourselves and to each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not think it is a heavy burden that you have. It's a great joy to be used. Yeah. If people don't like what you're doing or they're thinking it's threatening something, stand by your principle. Yes.
Yeah.
If it's true for you, and it is, then pronounce it. Yeah. Other people can decide on their own. Yes. Yes. Or
So
we'll just turn into a dogmatic church, you know, fuck.
Right. Right.
Yes, there's got to be blood pumping through the veins. Yeah. Yeah. Freedom from the bondage of self is not held or enjoyed by self. Self cannot enjoy the freedom from the bondage of self. He can't. It's freedom from exactly that. The self that wants to enjoy freedom from the bondage of self. That's where the freedom lies. It does. You lose interest in you, the you that you're not. What? Yeah, you do. Yeah.
I love it.
Maybe you'll get interested in dogs. I don't know. Insects. I like insects. I like, you know, small birds. Except I don't like roosters right now. You know, they're on my hit list, really. If I had a little drone, I'd drop a little rooster bomb somewhere. Take them out. Take them out. But is my day full of rooster resentment? No.
That's classic.
You're like, if you get fixated on the rooster, you miss the bus. Every day, every moment a new the bus shows up, the door opens, and it says, come in. If you're busy fighting with the rooster, you can't come in. You know, fuck that. But I'm right. I know you're right, but get on the bus. Fucking drop it. Yes. Bus ride's much nicer. You can learn that, can't you? You can. You can learn, you can face life successfully by facing life. Yeah. To me, you know, really, it was, I couldn't face life successfully without drinking or using. Yeah. So what I was really afraid of was sobriety. I wasn't afraid of drinking and using. I was a pro at that. Overdosing and getting arrested and shot at were fucking, I could handle that. having someone unconditionally love me, now that was threatening. Yeah, maybe going to a job interview, that would have been threatening. But yes, I have learned that I, the action figure, which I'm not, can face life successfully. A day at a time. Don't give it a 30-year plan, it'll flip out. But a day at a time, it seems to be able to fake it through. Yeah? Yeah. All right, I've taken way too much time, I guess.
Oh,
That's
that's
good.
great.
Go ahead. Who has any share or any
Yeah,
question?
any hands, any questions, you guys? Just put your hand up and we'll unmute you. And
Kaiser has his hand up.
where is he? There he is up there in the corner. Hey, buddy.
Hey, thanks, Kurt. Hey, Paul. Thanks, buddy. You touched upon something in a way that you've never touched upon before, and I want to kind of see if there's something there for me to kind of explore. If you could kind of pull it out. So in sobriety, that being convinced with my alcoholism and my fear of sobriety, that was great. And that's pretty much settled.
Kaiser, let me just throw something in there.
Yeah.
Not my fear and my sobriety, just
Okay.
fear. Yes, just
Okay.
let the my drop off. You're used to carrying it, but it's not needed anymore.
Right. I'm glad you brought this up, because that's exactly where I wanted to go. You were talking about my resentment versus just resentment.
Yes.
And like you see my resentment and feel that. And then there's this position of neutrality. And then there's just resentment. And the difference between my resentment and resentment, it's almost like you weigh what the difference is between those two. And then you said you kind of created an image with that, like what you were talking about, like with the planets and stuff. They have radar, and then they do that. One of the things that's been kind of like a fly in my my process is this year I wrote, I really am interested in being convinced. And being convinced is that actually I'm not a self, and I don't have to claim the lower power, the self part of that. And the weirdest thing is my experience is I go in and out of from the self to the higher power. By being of service, I'm relieved, and then I get heavy again, and then I want to get out of the being the heavy as the self, and there's still honestly a slight lack of being convinced. And what you had said about getting the difference between my resentment and resentment and experiencing that, ooh, there's something there that there's an intuition that go there and experience that. And there might be a convincing, because you seem to be like me, you have these thoughts and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, whatever, that's great. It's a thought. I'm recalling to do that, but there's still a lack of being convinced there. Yeah, so go on, if you would, about that difference between my resentment and resentment, or difference between my XYZ and then just XYZ. That position of neutrality, man, there's something tasty there for me. I don't know.
All right, so it's not going to be your being convinced. It's being convinced you're not the my. It's not my being convinced. Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
That which wants to be convinced can't be. It's made up of two-ness. It's yes or no, this or that. Yeah? Yay or nay. It has both aspects at the same time. One's being leaned in more than the other, but they're both there. Yeah? The being convinced is more sort of what we imply with the word the innermost. Yeah. Like when I was convinced of struck sober, it wasn't in where the problem resides. It was somewhere else. Let's call it the innermost. Yeah. That in that place, being convinced can be held without an opposite. Yeah. So you can come to a conclusion, not with an anti-conclusion, just a conclusion. Yeah. No opposite. With the my, it's always conditional. So you're conditionally convinced and then you're conditionally unconvinced. Right. And the head plays with it. So that's the head playing God. Yeah. Where for us as real addicts and alcoholics, it's essential we be free of these shit, resentments and stuff like that. It's essential. It kills more alcoholics than anything else. Yeah. And we cannot do it on our own power. That's the admittance. Now, hopefully you're convinced of that. So you don't deal with the resentment, you write it down. Yeah. You don't deal with it directly, you write it down. And then you take it over to the power and you ask it to change it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does it change it? It weakens the my, really. Resentments come because we see in a very weird way. You know, the Chuck C had the new pair of glasses. What the new pair of glasses are trying to correct is an obsessive, self-centered view. Yeah. We're looking at everything as how it pertains to us. That's how it is. It's not like a panoramic random view. It's focused. Everything is focused to be about us. Yeah. It's called self-centeredness. You can picture it as a pair of glasses, and Chuck C is saying there's a new pair of glasses. Yeah. Which will hopefully show you there's a possibility of seeing differently than the old pair of glasses. Yes?
Yeah.
So the new pair of glasses, when you look at something, that allows or affords of being convinced. The old pair of glasses is, oh, well, I'm convinced now. Yeah, but when it comes to a girlfriend or something, whatever like that, I have a conditional convinced, and I can be unconvinced anytime I want. Yes? Yes?
Yeah.
Plays with this thing. In being convinced, there's no playing with it. You've come to a conclusion, you were brought there, that you're fucked, really, let's say. Yeah. And it's not like, oh, I could be unfucked if I have a drink. No, it's none of that's going to work this time. It's the being convinced is of, let's say, oneness, not two-ness. Yeah. It's not like, all right, I'm totally fucked up now, but I won't, tomorrow I'll be all right. No, this is like, yes, you're convinced of something. There's no other possibility. Yeah. That's where the freedom lies. You don't arrive to the freedom from the problem. The problem resides in the mind. The mind's not bringing you to the promised land. It will promise you the land all fucking day. It's not bringing you there. Yeah, it's the problem. Read the book. They diagnose it. The problem resides in the mind. I'm not making it up. It's right in one of the pages there. It's one of the clearest diagnoses. Where does the problem reside? In your mind. What? What is the mind? Is it a thing? No. It's activity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is the mind a thought or is it thinking, supposedly? Yeah, it's all activity. So the problem is an activity. The bondage of self is an activity. It's not something gets bonded to something else. Yeah, it's an activity. The activity is saying you're already bonded when you never are. That's the activity. It doesn't say, watch out, you're going to become a self. It says you already are one. That's the bondage. The bondage is, it's sort of like the bondage of the original sin in Catholicism. So the original sin is a mortal sin, which means there's no possibility of forgiveness. And you had it before you even know you did it. And you're stamped with that. Good luck. Take off and try to live the best you can because it really doesn't matter. You've been tattooed with the original sin. Nothing can wash it off. And you don't even remember what you did. Yeah. So this is sort of in a weird way like selfing. Selfing tells you you're something already. It says you're a loser. It doesn't say you could become a loser. It says you're a loser, bro. It says you're never going to be loved. It says it pontificates constantly, and it makes up shit, and then it tells you, man, let's get out of this. So now that which made the shit up, you're going to use it as a vehicle to get out of the shit, is just more shit, really. I mean, seriously. Yeah.
Right. So you're saying, well, there's being convinced, and then
No,
from my perspective, there's an activity of trying to be convinced, which ignores kind of being convinced. So I very well may be
Why? You see, because what's trying to be convinced can't be convinced. So give up that fucking hope. It'll be convinced when it enters the rehab. The second day, it's ready to split. Isn't it? It happens all the fucking time. Yeah. I met guys in Thailand who were convinced that they wanted to be a monk. They took on the robes, and after 3 months, they wanted to get out of there. That's how convinced they were. Once they saw what it was like to live as a monk in Thailand, they wanted to go back to Brooklyn. But they were convinced they wanted to be a monk the rest of their life. Well, they were unconvinced pretty quickly, yeah? We're not talking about that. We're talking about being convinced of certain conditions that have a huge influence in you, like alcoholism. Yeah, being convinced that you're not managerial quality, being convinced that no human power, including yours, is going to get you out of this situation. Being convinced the best posture is surrender, not you surrendering, the surrendering of the you. Yes. Yeah. And the surrendering of the you is not waiting around for it to be convinced, for everything to get great or to do what you need to do, because it ain't. It's all conditional. The mental state is all transactional. It just does a deal, and then if it doesn't like the deal, it negates the deal. It fucking nulls and voids it. Yeah? You need something much more reliable than that when it concerns sobriety. With if you're a real addict and a real alcoholic, you can't, half measures isn't gonna work. Yeah. Being convinced is not a half measure. It's like a fact. You've recognized you're in an unwinnable condition, and that's the winning of the condition. You admit it, fine. And you ask for help. And a lot of times when you ask for help, you'll be put to use as being helpful to others. That's how your asking for help was responded to, was helping others. What? Yeah. That's how we get help the most sometimes. Yes?
Yeah.
Like the Course in Miracles says, do you want to learn the Course in Miracles? Teach it. Yeah. The great way to learn is to teach. The great way to know you have it is by giving it away. I'm not a believer. I've got to make sure I have it before I try to give it away. No, if you're willing to give it away, you have it. Yeah. If you're willing to give it away, you have it. That to me is spirit. Yeah. You don't have a quantity of spirit that gives you an authority. You're just willing to be used, and you're used. Yeah. Do you think I have a PhD in speaking to people? No. I was compelled to sit and share stuff with people, and things conspired to end me up at this place. Yeah. Have I shown up at any of these meetings? Never. If I did, I would turn off the Zoom. I wouldn't listen to Paul Hedderman for a second. Yeah. But hopefully Paul Hedderman is not talking right now. Yeah. Something's coming through Paul, and I have great faith in that. But if you ask for Paul's advice, I wouldn't give it. Concerning relationships and shit like that.
And with that, you just touch upon the spiritual principle of anonymity, which is delicious. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, yes, anonymity is being convinced of the conditions, which is a very humbling position. Yeah, you are not the cause of almost anything. You're the effect, running around as a cause. Didn't you think you were doing one thing and then something else had a larger agenda when you were taken over by alcoholism? Did you set the dance moves and have the gorilla follow, or did the gorilla set the dance move and you followed? Yeah. Yeah.
Even
You were
more
gonna
in
stop
sobriety.
dancing. The gorilla wanted to stop. You weren't doing fucking shit. You were being dragged along, used for transportation. Yes, yes, you were. Just do a study in our community. You know, in NA, they talk about the 3 parking spaces: institution, jails, and death. So you take 100,000 of us in the programs, and you see how many of those 100,000 cars end up in the same 3 parking spaces, because we share the same driver, alcoholism. Yeah, so we go where alcoholism goes. So the trajectory of alcoholism has been captured by the Society of Recovery. So you can look at someone and you can forecast their life pretty much. You can say, listen, bro, if you keep doing what you're doing, this and that, and that, and this, and this, and this, and then they call you up 10 years later, and it pretty much, you were the great soothsayer. You had the crystal ball. You didn't need a crystal ball. You saw your own life of alcoholism, and you can pretty much generalize what their life under alcoholism will be, because alcoholism doesn't have an infinite amount of traits. It treats everyone the same pretty much. You know what I mean? You can see, yeah. I mean, really. Really, seriously, do you think the thoughts that you think you're having are yours?
No.
Do you go to a meeting and people sound just like you? That's terrible, because we want to be unique, all of us. We hate to be a conformed little presentation, but we're pretty much are. Yeah. So people share their feelings, their thoughts, their reactions, and after a while, you have to come to the 2 conclusions. How did they get my thoughts, or they're not my thoughts? Yeah. That's where the freedom lies, doesn't it? When you see your thoughts as not your thoughts, there's a freedom from thought that is not available when they're held as your thoughts. It's not even close to being available. Yeah. But if you see them as not your thoughts, there's an availability of space. Yeah. You're onto something. Yeah. So when you feel that my, just bring it to 6 and 7. I'm entirely ready for my to be reconfigured. And I ask this power to do it. Yeah. And with the trust of something did for you what you couldn't do yourself, getting you sober, which has been a huge thing, you should have some feeling around it. And that feeling is like rocket fuel. And you turn that over to the higher power and you trust the process. Yeah. That you will be changed. You won't change yourself, maybe, very rarely. You will be changed. Yeah. Life will work on you. Yeah. And by life working on you, you can see the hands that are behind it. Yeah. You get the intimacy of the higher power. Yeah. Much better than a picture of a saint or shit like that. Though there's nothing wrong with that. But you have an intimacy in your own life of feeling something move through you and to see it move through others. Yeah. How much more convincing can it be, really? How much more convincing do you need? You seemingly were dying from a hopeless state of mind and body, and now you've been relieved of that. And obviously you didn't do it, so let the credit go where it may. I mean, if that isn't enough to being convinced, I don't know what is. I just think we're trying to convince something that can't be convinced. Yeah. The innermost is very easily convinced. It realizes something does not work. And it stops trying to work it. It does. It just fucking finally gives up. And it's open to be moved in a different direction by a different direction. Yes? Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kaiser. Any other questions? Any other hands? Come on, you guys. Oh, we got Greg's iPhone.
Fuck
Go
you.
for it.
Yeah.
My thing is,
Hey guys. Hey Paul.
hey,
So I have when I sobered up this last time, I've been in the fellowship 45 years. I sobered up 17 years ago, and my sponsor asked how I was feeling physically. You know, going through the, do you have a watch? Do you have a notepad? Do you have a calendar? All this stuff to kind of keep track of my days and stuff. He says, how are you physically? I said, well, my side's hurting. Well, long story short, I found out I have a blood disorder. I have cancer. And 17 years plus have gone by, and now I'm in the last stages of that. And so they say, your only option is to get a bone marrow transplant. And then there's the voices they're saying, well, yeah, but you can do this holistically. But, of course, I haven't found anything, but I'm trying it anyways. But it's the question I have is, like, I got like these, there's days I go by and I'm just like super positive and I'm happy I have options. And then there'll be 2-3 days out of the week where I'm just saying I'm fucked and there's no way out. And yeah, and I know it's all a lot of false programming in my head. And it's scary because, I want to survive as this body for a little while longer. As tough as my life has been, at times I still enjoy it.
yeah.
But I'm just kind of just whatever comes up for you. Any input on that?
Well, again, I think it can be right now. It seems to fall under the category of facing life successfully. So life brings challenges, and you're still sober, yes?
Yeah.
So one sense from afar, you're facing life successfully. It hasn't led you to a drink. You're coping with it. So I think it's an upgrade from how we used to deal with shit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have that. Yeah. And of course you're in that dualistic thing. Sometimes you feel great with the same problem, and sometimes you feel terrible with the same problem. So is it really the problem that's causing the terrible and greatness? No. Yeah, because the cancer, when you're feeling great, you seem to have the cancer still. And when you're not feeling great, you still have the
I
cancer.
still have the cancer.
So you have swings in how you feel. So it can't be totally premised on cancer because you have cancer in both swings, yeah? You're feeling great. So obviously the cancer is being used one way to amplify a heaviness or make it more. And then there's a freedom from that when you're having a great day. But the cancer's there both days, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so obviously the great day isn't based on the cancer, or the bad day isn't really based on the cancer. It's just an aspect of your life that the head can try to use or not. But in fact, there's something overriding the cancer or giving the meaning to the cancer, which is us, yes?
Right. Yep.
Therefore, and in that place, there's importance to rely on that, what we call the higher power, because a lot of false evidence will appear real in one mental state, yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So one day it's telling you it's because of cancer you feel shitty, but it's not telling you you're feeling great because of cancer, is it?
No.
Yeah. So
Wait a minute.
not really
No.
feeling shitty
No.
so much because of cancer.
Well, there are days where I'm grateful of the lessons I've learned from it. No, just like with alcoholism, I'm like, wow, man, I would have never had that experience
Yeah.
had it not been for that awful experience.
Yeah. And some things like cancer hasn't been something in my life, but I had an accident that has produced a chronic condition for 40 something years physically. And after a while, it's not the focus of the blame or the credit. Yeah. You can live quite successfully around an impediment. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have a bent leg and can never find a pair of shoes that ever work and shit like that, and can't stand on a surfboard or anything. Doesn't have any feeling. Yeah, but a bitch, but on another level, it's brought about a huge amount of empathy for others, and brought me to earth, brought me back to earth, because I was always trying to take off and split, and there's nothing like a bad leg to do make it obvious that you're in a physical definition, so to speak. So yeah, I think everyone has their seed assignment, and I think the success in that is in the minor things, Yeah.
Yeah.
You may still have
Absolutely.
cancer, but it's been shown on many days that the cancer wasn't the deciding factor of the day. Yeah, that's a great bit of
Yeah.
information. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate the insight. So
Yeah, I mean, hey,
I'm not the cancer. I'm not my body. I'm not alcoholism. I'm
yeah,
whatever I am doesn't need any. It's like, I'm just really enjoying life.
exactly.
But yeah.
This is a traveling lighter. See, traveling
Yeah.
lighter doesn't mean the cancer goes away. It could, but it doesn't mean that. It means you're going to travel lighter through cancer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to travel lighter through a disability. I'm going to da da da. Yes. And my head and the doctors were giving me a lot of bleak forecasts when I was in the hospital, and most of them haven't come to pass. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank God when I was there, the doctors weren't the ultimate authority. I had a sense of a higher authority. And I feel you do too. So, and especially the mental states constantly trying to tell you how it's going to be, how it is, how it was. It's a lot of
Yeah.
bullshit.
It is bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And something
you
that's
so much.
overpowered
Yeah.
it a few times a week, which is awesome. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I would say I went for a few weeks without any like bumming out or waking up to a head full. And I decided, I get to choose what I'm going to think today. And I'm going to take my body over here and sit it down in a chair and meditate to what I want to meditate to. And my body's going, we need to go get some Cheerios, or maybe you should go to a meeting or to go do this or that. And I'm forcing all those urges to just say, hey man, you're going to get all that stuff, but it's not going to happen till later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you hopefully you have a network to share stuff with, because your insights under this condition can be helpful to other people who are entering that condition or under it themselves. So really, a lot of times success isn't based on how we're doing, it's our maximum use. Yeah. I hate to break the news. To me, it's sort of like, please leave me of the bondage of self so I can have a big house in Malibu. No, so that I can be an example to other people. Something works. Yeah? Oh, I have the house too, maybe, but it's not the primary point. Yeah, the primary point is to be of use to others.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're fulfilling that. So there you go.
Best I can. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we can do. Yeah, the best we can.
Best we can. Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Thank
Yeah.
you for the share, and thank you for trusting us enough to speak about stuff. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, man. I feel it. I just absolutely insist on doing the best at just loving what's still so much available, that I will say I appreciate things so much more. I can break out in tears over the littlest things, of which I used to just pass by before. And yeah, especially working with other people, it's just, I see them struggling so much with this idea what they're not. But and it's great to sit them down when they start asking questions.
Yes, yes, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The good and bad isn't really based on the condition; it's our obviously response to it. Yeah. And if knowing my response really promotes more of a surrender for a new response. Yeah. And that new response has led me to be able to face life successfully and without shooting dope or anything. Many years. And actually, I never even have a strong feeling or thought about it. So, hallelujah. Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, it's true. It's great.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
A little tear. on my- Yeah.
Let's see, we got 20 to 12, Paul. Pacific Coast time.
I got a lot of demands in Hawaii.
We don't have any more hands. You want to wrap it up?
Can only be a burning desire. I mean a 5-alarm burning desire. If there's any question, it's fine. We're not doing shit. But if not, I can go. That's great. I think
we got a burning desire. Is it Senna? Senna?
Oh no, I don't. I was just putting the fire on.
Thank you, Senna. Thank you for that quick response. All right, so let's say goodbye to everyone. Yeah. There's some lovely people here, personal. Yes. There's Amelia there, and Kerry. Kerry is a usual suspect.
Hey, Nina.
We're in the same room. Jesus, guys. Yeah, I like that Zoom space provided.
Oh, shush.
All right. So we got Stefan on Having Never Left. Nice to see you, Stefan, as always, really. Miles, nice to see you, my friend, there. Thank you. Steve in Germany, nice to see you, Steve. We got video. Nina, not Nina, nor Tina, but Nina. Thank you, Nina. We had Chris from Mammoth Lakes. Gustav, nice to see you, Gustav. Greg, nice to see you, Greg. Greg's iPhone. Susan, nice to see you, Susan. Yeah, Amy, Seattle. Oliver, Berlin. I always like to say where they're from, because I don't even remember where I'm from. It's practice. Logan, Kelly, let's see, Michael Stacy. I just saw him up there. You might. We got PK. PK has been quiet today. He's actually sitting in a chair. Yes. We got not manageable from Sweden. Nice to see you, bro. Artur. We got Kurt Z and Kristen. I don't know how she popped in there, but she's Kurt's becoming the new Mecca. I see the people coming to visit Kurt down in Redondo Beach. Without my knowing it. It's okay. Walter, I know all the Zoom intricacies. I know all the shit that's going on. I do. It's all coming into clear light. We got Walter. Walter, nice to see you, Walter. Amsterdam. Jess from Ireland. Tommy, Ireland. Mickey from Madeira, California. Yep. Where the nights are short and the days are long. Joseph from France. Joseph, as always, thanks for sticking with the SS and bitch slap. It may look like it's sinking, but it's just floating. Like an old band I used to like. Drowning, not waving. Or it was waving, not drowning. I don't know. We got Roman, German. Thank you. Roman is he participates on a lot of levels. Thank you for all the help. Kaiser, as always. Yep. Let's see who else is here. I think that's it. I don't see any more right now. Do you? No. All right. Hey, thanks for coming today, and we'll be here tomorrow night, and meaning Hawaii and the Zoom at 7 Pacific time, and Thursday and Saturday. Yes. Thank you, Kurt, for this great job.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you
Thanks
for the day.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kurt.
Good
Yes,
job,
you're
Kurt.
welcome. You are
Thanks,
welcome.
everybody.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Kurt.
Stop recording, Kurt.